You know what's not irresistible? This movie. Yup. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm taking a look at the new political comedy from Jon Stewart, Irresistible, starring some favorites of mine, Steve Carell, Rose Byrne, and Chris Cooper. Now, if you've seen the trailer for this movie, listen, it's not very good. It didn't make me laugh, and it almost felt like a movie that was a little too late, and the final product is not much better. But before I dive into what I liked and, well, what I really didn't like about this movie, if you find yourself here at Real James for the first time, welcome to the family. I mean, I talk about movies, I talk about TV, I review them, I react to them, and guys, it's been a blessing to be on this journey to 2000 with you all. So if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. And now don't forget to tap on that bell as well, because what it'll do is get you notified every time I drop something new. Now don't forget to also smash that like button below, because it helps out the channel a ton. And go ahead and comment below and let me know what you think of the movie when you see it, or if you're even going to watch the film this weekend, because if you don't, well, let me reserve that for the negatives, but let's start talking about what this movie really is. Irresistible was actually supposed to get a theatrical release on May 29th, but it got pushed to PVOD because of this pandemic, and I found it interesting because the film, yes, it did feel some years too late. It definitely, I get it, it's a political satire, but it almost felt like this movie could have been released 3 or 4 years ago, but we'll definitely get into that. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Jon Stewart as a director, this is his second film. He did one in 2014, Rosewater, but enough of the behind the scenes. Let's get into what Irresistible is all about. Our story takes place in this small town in Wisconsin, and it follows Gary Zimmer, who's played by Steve Carell, and he's a Democratic strategist trying to get this man who went viral on YouTube for his amazing speech. He stood up to this Republican mayor of the town. Gary Zimmer wants to make this Marine mayor of this small town. However, it is traditionally conservative, so he enlists in the help of some friends. However, this is no small task, because Gary Zimmer's rival, Faith, who is played by Rose Byrne, is a Republican strategist and is running the re-election campaign for the current mayor of this town. So it becomes a clash of the titans for the two, and it's supposed to be a humbling experience for our main characters. But the question is, did it feel whole at the end? Now, I'm not going to get into that right now, but let me get into, the one positive for the film. Oh, boy, there's only one. Okay, maybe I can pick out two. I'll start aesthetically. In the beginning of the film, it looked pretty. Like, shooting in this rural town, and in this small town of Wisconsin, it looked good. I mean, the low lighting, the very vibrant colors of the grass, and you see all the cows in the pasture, and it felt like you were in this small town in the beginning of the film, but very quickly does it snap you out of that reality, because from that point onward, everything felt pretty unnatural. But I'll save that for a little bit later in this review. The other positive is Jon Stewart does well to poke fun at both sides. I mean, if you are unfamiliar with Jon Stewart, where have you been in the last 2 decades? But Jon Stewart has been doing political satire for a while. He was the host of The Daily Show. The dude is really good. So yes, the satire pokes fun at both Democrats and Republicans, so don't worry, this is not just some left-leaning film or some right-leaning film. It'll poke fun at both sides. And that's about it, guys. Now we have to get into what didn't make this movie work, which was quite a lot. The list is long. For starters, this movie is incredibly bland. Listen, I understand small towns are not very interesting. You run into the same people. Everyone in the town knows your name. There was actually a little running joke in the beginning where Gary Zimmer's called DC Gary by a couple guys at the bar, and then 10 minutes later, everybody knows his name. But the thing is, the movie doesn't have to be bland. I get it. The town isn't flashy, but the movie can at least be a little bit interesting, and this script was doomed from the onset. I mean, absolutely nothing is intriguing. None of the characters resonated with me. The humor was awful, and I mean, goodness gracious, I'm looking at some notes that I have here, and the film even opens up and it feels like a commercial, like a product placement for Google. And I don't understand. I don't want to see Steve Carell scream at his Google Home for 10 minutes. I mean, it wasn't 10 minutes, but you get me. It sounded almost like it was artificial, and nothing felt natural about the film from the jump. And what's crazy is I was expecting really genuine performances from our two leads, Steve Carell and Rose Byrne. However, for the most part, they felt bound by the script, which is ultimately lifeless in this film. When it comes to the dialogue, I get it. I'm not unfamiliar with hearing Steve Carell curse, but nothing about it felt real. I mean, there were moments where he just went on a tirade And I'm like, okay, but this is not funny, and it's not Steve Carell. Like, I've seen better from Steve Carell, and in this film, it felt like Jon Stewart mishandled him completely. And what really disappointed me is Rose Byrne and Steve Carell are not likable in this film. If you just saw them for the first time, you would think, oh, why do people like these actors so much? I mean, yes, they're generally very likable, but again, I feel like the characters they were playing were neither relatable nor funny or clever or witty, none of that. And like I mentioned a little while ago, both of them are always clashing. I mean, even in the beginning of the film, you see them both in the spin room following the election or leading up to the election, and yeah, I get it, they're rivals, and I understand that both of them don't like each other, but there's this running joke between them both where they continue to make this bet where if one of them loses, the other has to perform a certain action on the other, and it's just a lot of cheap gags and sex jokes that don't feel clever, and I'm actually really disappointed because Jon Stewart is better than this level of humor. And outside of the humor and the script not really working well for the characters, I really feel like the actors were just unconvincing here. It almost felt like they didn't want to be a part of the movie just as much as I didn't want to be a part of watching the film after a certain point. Listen, I'm grateful that I got a chance to see Irresistible early, but this movie makes it such an unenjoyable experience. Chris Cooper is usually a great actor, and he plays the guy who Gary Zimmer wants to elect as mayor, the first Democratic mayor in this town in such a long time. At first, I was feeling out Chris Cooper's approach here. It seemed like he was a little timid, definitely, plays up to that small town vibe you get, and I mean, he's a farm owner, so there's not much to his character, and again, it is a little bland. But the thing is, there's nothing about him playing a straight man that made me interested in his performance. There are so many moments in this movie that are supposed to be clever and charming, like the film is screaming at you, love this moment, but I just really didn't. I feel like the film was just kind of going through the motions, as well as the actors here. I love the cast and crew in this film, but it just didn't work at all. Even Mackenzie Davis has a supporting role in this film, and I loved her in the latest Terminator movie, and I think she's great in almost everything I've seen her in. But here, she's the best part of Irresistible, and she's barely used. I mean, I don't understand why Jon Stewart didn't go with that approach more often. She had a charming approach to the film, a very natural performance. Everything else just felt so uninteresting. The problem is the movie isn't about her. It's about Steve Carell, it's about Rose Byrne and Chris Cooper, and all three of those actors just didn't sell the movie for me. And then there's a very clear point in the film, in the middle of the film actually, where I said to myself, this movie's just crashing and burning. The movie tries to recover with this weird shift in the story as we get closer to the end of the film. You'll know it when you see it, but by that point I was tuned out. I was thinking, how much longer do we have in this film? And whenever I'm looking at my watch while watching a movie, boy, that's not a good thing. Now, people were saying this movie is 3 or 4 years too late, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't even think it would have worked then. And I mean, I get what Jon Stewart's trying to do with this film. It's Gary Zimmer, this larger-than-life Washington, D.C. political personality. He goes to a small town in Wisconsin, and he gets humbled. The problem is, it didn't work. It sounds much better on paper than it was translated onto the big screen. I know I don't usually rate movies at the end of my reviews, but if I had to give a star rating, I'm not even kidding you guys. This is a 1 out of 5 star. I mean, the worst film I've seen this year is The Hunt, which is again a political satire that gives this thriller angle. And Irresistible is probably the second worst movie of the year. It is just not worth your time at all. And listen, I really want the best for Jon Stewart as a director and writer, and I think that he has the potential. The only problem here is that I think he needs someone else to write his scripts, because this just did not work. Alrighty, you guys, well, there you have it. That's my review for Irresistible. I'm so sorry I couldn't come to you with a more positive review, but if you want to see more of this, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Tap on that bell as well, because there's another movie I'm watching this week. I guess you could say it's about a certain spy named Dave Bautista. And if you've missed it, I've reviewed some amazing movies like Spike Lee's Da 5 Bloods, my favorite movie of the year, and even a Netflix original anime film from Studio Colorido called A Whisker Away. I really hope I pronounced that studio correctly. I've also been talking all about Avatar: The Last Airbender because I just finished it for the very first time, so expect a review for that up on the channel this week. Alrighty guys, well, I'm gonna go get to it. A lot more movies to watch and a lot more TV to consume. So again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.